Swing it open the gateway to your weekend, ladies and gentlemen, because it's Friday, November 8th. Mike Feir highlights the graphic audio drama, Lair of the Crystal Fang. We also round the show off a little later with fashion designer, she's blind as well, Natalie Trevonne joining us, who tells us about her clothing line, Not Your Inspiration. Now, let's get on with your Friday right here on Kelly & Company.
This is Kelly & Company.
And today I'm joined by Brock Richardson. Nazreen Abdul-Majid joins us, our technical producer. Guys, how are you today?
Pretty well.
I'm so happy it's a Friday.
Well, that's why we have that privilege here on this program to swing open the gateway to the weekend. We've done it for 8 years, bestowing that upon us to get everyone ready. And we, of course, have some great conversations ahead for you on the show. And Nazreen will also be out there on social media, folks. Engage with her when you can. Always know that she's taking care of our accounts. We'll give you that information in a while. But we welcome back Brock Richardson. For those of you who don't know Brock, well, let's find out and reintroduce Brock to most of our audience who have been with us for a while. But this guy, the host of the Neutral Zone podcast and regular co-host on Selective Fridays here, joins us to visit, to talk, and answer questions. And of course, the question of the day is, if you insist, Brock, tell us why you love Kelly & Company so dearly.
Well, I have been a part of this fray in one way or another since the beginning, I would say, and I have enjoyed it. It's where I got my start, if you will, here at AMI. When I took the Accessible Voice for Broadcasting course, I got introduced to AMI and then Kelly McDonald as my mentor, and we've just been around ever since. And I started on the Roundtable, which was a Thursday staple back when, and the rest is history. And I just love all of you so much. So happy
we
to be back.
appreciate it and really glad to have you with.
I have a feeling Kelly sent a description of the script to Brock saying, say good things, say good things.
This is the stuff to say. If I spelled better, definitely, Brock, you'd be getting my actual words of your words, which probably be a little more accurate than the way you said it. Cleaner, but still wonderful stuff, pal. We're glad that you could be a part of what we're doing here, Brock, and the return of Kelly & Company. Recently, though, Brock, you were in the news and you were over on another network making that news. You appeared on the CBC program Marketplace, which is a show where they do a bunch of different things of keeping us in the know. They spot scams and kind of bring some things to focus. What were you on that show for?
Yes, so I was on Marketplace a week ago today, actually, when we took a trip to Fredericton to test out Air Canada's promises and accessibility nature of how they board and onboard people from the airplane. It was a interesting experience. It was a long experience, all turned into a 26-minute episode. We had some good, some bad, and some ugly, but it was worth it for the greater good of the disability community, what I did.
So when approached to do something like this, Brock, and again, we always stop and say, yeah, but you got this camera crew or people around with you. Like, doesn't the airline, doesn't the other passenger say, hey, man, who's a celebrity? Hey, what's this guy up to? Tell us a little bit about how this concealment so that you could go through the process and be treated like a person in need who has a disability and requesting the support of these services.
So we went in May of 2024, and I was with a two-people team, not including my attendant, but I was with a two-people team. One of them had using their iPhone camera to take photos and videos. The other one had sunglasses, which was a recording device. And then in Catherine's, the button of the shirt they gave her, there was a camera. So all of that captured all of everything that happened. And I was not mic'd up because they were too worried with the transferring that had to occur that it would be too easy to find out that there's a mic pack or something to that effect. So it was very fascinating how the process happened, and it was all over about a 24 to 30 hour period of time that was recorded. So pretty cool.
From your experience, and I know people, we want you to go take a look at the show through CBC. You can call it up on their various platforms, Marketplace, last Friday edition. Um, eh, was it thumbs up? Was there problems, kind of half and half, or how would you assess where we're at with your experience and just your experience? We know Marketplace has checked this out before, and this was kind of a follow up as to the recommended changes and the slap on the hand, if you want to call it, that Air Canada received. Where are things standing now, and where do you think they go from here?
Well, there were three particular incidences that occurred on the airplane trip. One was people boarding ahead of me, which is Air Canada's policy is that person with disability must be boarded before everybody else. The other one was the fact that they asked Catherine to leave the airplane when we arrived in Fredericton before I was offloaded. And the third one was that the lift wouldn't go all the way down into the seat, so they had to undo the tension on the lift while I was 6 or 8 inches off the seat. And so those were the
Oh.
three incidences, and all of which are being taken into account. It was not an easy trip to encounter for sure.
Hmm. And it's funny, you pay the same amount of money, you go on a trip, you want things so much easier, would like not to have hassles, you'd like it hassle free. And unfortunately, for a lot of people with any disability, that just isn't the facts. And you get tired when you hear we're making changes, and the patting ourselves on the back when something goes right. And many of us, our trips go fine depending on your circumstances, but many of us, unfortunately, they don't. And you want to see the heart meant behind the words, Brock, to make it, hey, come fly with us, we'll make your trip easy. You want that to be truthful.
Absolutely. And just very quickly, we did the episode around the Air Canada Accessibility Summit, which was the first of its kind. So Marketplace decided to do this episode surrounding that because then they could share some of the video footage with some of the higher powers at Air Canada. And I will tell you that I have been in constant communication with the Canadian Transportation Agency and Air Canada itself. So the story is done, but there will be more that comes out of it in the future, I'm sure.
Brock Richardson joining us on Kelly and Company today. I'd be remiss. I said that I'd mention some of our information on social. Nazreen working hard at that. So, folks, to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Kelly and Co. AMI. Love to interact with you. Nazreen would love to hear from you. So please jump on there, and we'll keep you up to date on what's happening with the program. We'd like to welcome in Michael Feir, our audio entertainment reviewer, and Mike covers off so many different things for us to talk about in this field. He's always on the lookout for audio entertainment. And Mike, you've got one for us this week. Welcome to the show, sir. Nice to have you on board.
Yeah, it's good to be back, and yeah, lots to scout out and cover. And I've saved one I found for Halloween. Of course, we missed Halloween, but I figured that's not going to stop us. And so we've got a doozy of one for this week.
Okay, Brock and I are excited to get into this with you. This one has mysterious murders, resourceful heroes. Oh, I like those guys. I always find that kind of curious, and the supernatural awakening here as you review the graphic audio adaptation of Lair of the Crystal Thing. So, what was the attraction to you to kind of zero in on this and take a listen and bring it forward to us? This particular adaptation.
Well, this one is a continuation of a series of Lovecraft-inspired adventurers that are actually not, they're sort of one step removed from Lovecraft's tales because they're actually done by a company called Fantasy Flight Games. So they're done by Graphic Audio. They do the adaptations, but the books are published by Fantasy Flight Games, and they're Lovecraft inspired and also role-playing game inspired. So you always have these people involved that have a chance to succeed, but you don't necessarily know who's going to make it through because it's they're more of a game aspects, and the heroes always have to have resources. They always have to be, able to at least try to contend with this. So that I find kind of neat. It's not quite as dire as, say, a direct Lovecraft adaptation. This is more adventurous, which I quite like.
Okay. So do we find heroism, guys? I'm kind of curious before you tell us a little bit more about the story plan. I love when you find a resourceful hero because you never know, Brock, what they're going to use, what they're going to do in any given situation. Again, we know superheroes usually can use their brute strength, their super brain to figure something out. But you're put somewhere in a situation, something coming at you, and you have to make quick flash decisions. I really, as a kid, used to just really thrive for this. Wonder what he's going to use that stick for. Oh, what's he going to do with that stop sign?
What's next? Like, what's the move? What's the thing he's gonna do next? Yeah, that's the part that I always liked, and the different sort of outfits and the way they would, articulate the muscles and things like that. And their superpower, yeah, I love it. And the relatability piece, I think, was always something that you look at and you say, well, this is how I can relate to it. Because if you can't relate to it, you're pretty much out the door on that one, Mike, aren't you?
Yes. Yeah. What
Pretty
do we
much.
have in
Yeah.
this one, Mike, when we talk this
So,
kind of description or this kind of solutions in the story?
Yeah, so we have an injured journalist, Andy Van Nortwick, who was fired because he got injured. He's still kind of recovering. All of the characters in this were in the Cult of the Spider Queen, which I reviewed on Kelly and Ramia a couple, I think, a Halloween ago, and this is a kind of continuance of their lives. So all of them have been marked by the supernatural, and they're kind of recovering, and they're very resourceful. They got Andy Van Nortwick, and a young kind of journalist who's lost his job, is trying to break back in and regain it. You have an adventurer, Jake Williams, who was injured. He had a crippling injury that he's overcoming, and his leg is not working too well. So he's having to find ways to adapt to move more speedily if he wants to resume the adventuresome life that he misses so dearly. And you have the actress Maud, who basically was part of the Spider Queen incident, and suffered mentally in a lot of ways. And so she's recovering from that. So there's a cost to encountering the supernatural, and your life is never going to be the same again. And then you've got these new characters that join Charlie Kane, the mayor of this town, Arkham, and trying to cope with this sudden find of this tooth, this odd crystal that seems to be connected with these horrible murders in the sewers below the town that are taking place. And he's trying to dealing with that situation, and looking at it from a politician's sort of gaze, trying to survive this stuff in Arkham. And you have homeless survivor Wendy, who is a really wonderful woman who is trying to take care of her brother, younger brother. They're both kids basically still, and they are, you know, pulled into this very strange supernatural occurrence. You have an older reporter, Rex Murphy, who is also kind of trying to get an angle on this, trying to sort of cope with this and figure out what's going on in the city, what this is doing, and why these murders haven't been solved. So you have all these journalists, writers, adventurers, all these resources that people are pulling to try and contend with sort of evil forces that are unleashed under the city.
So
It
many layers to all that. I love
Yeah,
it. I just love
that's
it.
what
Yeah,
I do too. I find that interesting. Now, when we talk about the characters and character development within this story with having so many people, are you pleased? Does it
yeah.
hit the mark?
There was a real arc here. Like you saw that all of them made journeys from really kind of the aftermath of the previous adventure, and then you saw them grow and really kind of get their zip back in their lives and find ways of moving forward. So there is there are kind of arcs to these characters, and you get the sense of what it costs to encounter this kind of supernatural, and you can never go back to what the way life was before. It haunts you. There's a it takes a toll as you encounter this stuff.
Okay. I want to play a clip. We've got one, Mike, and get your feedback and thoughts, guys, on this. Of course, this is from the dramatized series, Lair of the Crystal Fang, part of the Arkham Horror series. So let's take a listen to this.
They asked me if I ever heard of the lamprey.
The lamprey? I take it that's not the French word for lamp?
It's a kind of fish. They look like eels. They got these toothy, tube-like mouths, and they attach themselves onto their prey like suction cups. They chew off the scales, drilling a hole into their victims. They suck out the blood and the juices, eating flesh, organs, whatever they can.
So they're parasites, like leeches.
That's right. You see the obvious parallels to the sewer killer. Whoever the murderer is, they're draining the life out of their victims, stealing blood.
The cops decided to name the killer the Lamprey?
No, the killer picked their own moniker. They sent a letter to the cops, to the police chief, in
Wow.
fact. It's been kept hush-hush. A way to weed out false confessions. The detectives thought I'd admit I was the Lamprey if they showed me the letter.
They showed you the Lamprey's letter?
Andy thrilled at access to such material. Here he was at the core of the Strangler, or Lamprey, case. The inside scoop. He was hearing it from Rex Murphy himself.
My bosses threw me outside, but I'm right back in.
I didn't have my pencil and notepad, but I can remember most of it.
That one dude in there sounds like Mark Aflalo. Really, Mark, it sounds like you in there. You didn't work on this, did you?
Not that I know of, guys.
Yeah, wouldn't
Yeah,
that be
that's
a
sort
world?
of-
This guy's so busy, not that I know of. I don't remember doing it. Right, Mike? Doesn't he sound a little bit
Yeah.
there?
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, and of course, if the supernatural is too painful to remember, he might well not.
Yeah, it might be you
Right?
and you don't
He
remember.
might
Wow.
have just completely voided that part of his life.
Does someone owe me money?
That's all he cares about. Oh, you must be
Yep.
really hanging out with Brock Richardson a lot. You know what I find interesting, because I'm not a supernatural person, right? I same with, you get the fantasy stories and all that kind of thing. I put them in the same genre, even though they're, well, not genre, but the same kind of category for me, in the kind of a thumbs down. I find it hard. How much of this, with it being what it is, the kind of world, would someone like me who kind of it gets too far fetched, does it get pretty far fetched in this? And I know,
Well,
Mike, you're okay with that.
It's yeah, and I think most of the stuff that we deal with through the story is not supernatural. Like, you're dealing with problems that only, like, for example, a doctor hypnotizes one of the characters and sees a vision that of part of, it looks like down in the sewers with two people with a camera, and so they see glimpses of the future. So little things like that kind of happen through the story. It's only very rarely that the supernatural really pulls in, and you have to contend with, oh yikes, this is beyond normal, right? So for most of it, you're dealing with people trying to look for natural explanations, look for, okay, why is this happening? What are we doing, right? And trying to make it, get around the environment. The sewers are not easy to explore. Stuff is going on in Arkham itself, so you're dealing with town life. So there's a lot else to enjoy, and in this, and of course the sound and stuff, the music, the atmosphere. Graphic audio does a really good job of those. So you have all that too. You get to hear all the environments and how they make use of stereo, make use of orchestral
Mhm.
music. You heard the narrator in there as well. They do that as well. You don't miss any of the book. All of it is narrated or spoken by actors. So you don't miss any of what you'd see in the text if you read the book.
So this is a thumbs up
I,
on this one for what you get out of it.
Absolutely, yes. It's about
Yeah.
8 hours and change, and yeah, it's well paced. You're not going to be bored. The characters are engaging. Yeah, they pretty much hit all the what they should have hit in terms of that.
Awesome. Mike, beautiful work on this one. Thanks for bringing this forward. Always love to hear your ideas of this stuff. And we can find this one on the Graphic Audio website, graphicaudio.net. If people want to check it out, really appreciate it, Mike. We'll talk to you in a couple of weeks.
Absolutely. We'll see you then.
So it's interesting to me, Brock and Nazreen, just quickly, the fact that so much of our like these days is sewers. Like, I know there's always sewers in some kind of stories and creatures, but we have this crazy fascination in literally stuff that makes it even a more frightening place to be. Brock?
because it's the unknown. It's the what is this like? We don't really know what it's like, so we live through it
Hmm.
through audio drama. And I mean, I was amazed by the detail of the leech and like I was like, wow, that is some serious detail, which grabs people in even on a trailer like that.
Yeah. What,
Yeah.
Niz, did it kind of intrigue you, frighten you? Are you into this kind of story?
Okay, listen. I'm the type of person that gets scared of anything, especially the unknown. And I'm not a big fan of scary stuff. I'm not a big fan of getting scared. So when you talk about sewers or, in the dark, in the woods, in the middle of nowhere, it's not my cup of tea. It's not.
Me, it's rats. Like, I just think of being in
Yeah.
somewhere like that, any underground. Mike's got another one that we were talking about that CBC's putting out. Well, I won't spoil that or get into that at the moment. We don't have time for that. But anything that they start talking about underground worlds, old underground Paris used to be the thing I remember years ago that you just got intrigued, fascinated, and then started to get the willies saying, I'd love to see it down there. And in yourself, in your head, you're saying, no, you wouldn't.
Yeah, you
Thanks,
think of
guys.
Until
rats,
you
you
get
think of
put in there,
insects.
that's when you're
Yeah,
like, ooh.
exactly.
Yeah, I'd rather go to a dungeon. Folks, you can email us, kellyco@ami.ca. Well, we've got a wonderful guest that we'd like to invite onto the program here. Not Your Inspiration is a unique clothing brand with a focus on accessible design. The garments are designed with a tactile component so that blind and low vision people can distinguish each piece. But these pieces are not from your grandmother's closet with high style in mind. We welcome in the CEO and designer, Natalie Trevonne from New York City, who's here to tell us a little bit about the story. What is woven into the fabric? Natalie, welcome to Kelly and Company. Appreciate you taking time.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Let's talk about the idea. Where did it come from? This sounds fantastic.
Yeah, so my business partner and I originally started working together, Ernest by Feir, hey, if you're listening. We started working together on an NFT actually because we wanted to bring more diversity to the space. And we developed a wedding dress that was in Meta Fashion Week. So I was the first blind designer to do something within the metaverse in that way. But I quickly realized that this wasn't going to be accessible for my community as a blind person. And
Right.
so I wanted to do something that felt a little bit more accessible to them and felt a little bit more impactful. And
We
so
love
Ernest was like, go ahead.
we love that because we love to talk to people who kind of have an idea because everybody stops and says, I've got an idea for this. But it's putting it into practicality that really kind of sidetracks most of us or having the means. So sorry, carry on, explain that.
Oh yeah. So we Ernest was saying like, oh, let's do something, physical, but I had never ever put together a collection, and so I honestly didn't know how we were going to do that. But he was the push that I needed. He was like, we can do it. We'll figure it out. Lots of challenges along the way, but we were able to put 11 pieces down the runway last year, and it got a really great review, and we were able to now work on putting them through manufacturing. And so it's taking a little bit of time just because we got everything hand sewn, and so
Nice.
because of the
Wow.
textures are such a big deal for us, we want to make sure that they are very tactile. And I think manufacturing is just trying to do what they can to mimic that. And so we're being patient.
Can you describe a little bit before Brock and Nizreen may want to jump in here with some questions here? Just describe a little bit about some of the pieces that we might be able to expect, or and how that sewing makes such a big difference as a low vision or blind person. What they might be feeling.
Yeah, so we have a dress, which is a spin off on the little black dress called the Checkmate. And it's literally what you would like, it's literally a checkered box type of design. And the boxes are, some of them are lace and some of them are leather. So you have this two-tone textured style that is very tactile for someone that may not be able to see. So if you're looking to go out with friends, you can just feel in your closet, okay, this is my little black dress because it has this interesting texture difference, right? And so that's really what we wanted to focus on with a lot of these pieces. And it was really hard on the seamstress. I don't think they liked us for a little while on this specific project, but after it was done, we all fell in love with it because it's such an intricate, interesting piece.
Wow. Okay, any other one you want to talk about?
Yeah, so a favorite of mine is our queen dress, which is like a very formal dress, and it's made out of suited material, which is not really the norm for a dress. And so it was really cool because, I mean, hopefully everyone knows what like a suit feels like, right? So it's very
Yeah.
structured, it's a little firmer, and it's a two-piece type style dress that's connected by gold chain. And so it's this very detailed dress, but it has a distinct texture to it so that, again, if you're feeling in your closet for it without being able to see, you know exactly what it is.
Awesome. Beautiful. Nisreen, any questions?
It's so fascinating. I'm a big fashion type of girl. I love it. And I've seen your work, Natalie, and it's absolutely beautiful. I wish I dressed better today, so we can go with it. But I wore a plain black and white plaid shirt today, basic. But my question was, what was your inspiration to start, not your inspiration?
Yeah, I think anybody with a disability, and Brock you maybe will add to this, has heard you're such an inspiration for the
Yes.
littlest things.
Uh-huh.
It's crossing the street or being at the mall by yourself or on the train, wherever it may be. It's like we get they think people think it's a compliment to compliment us about the easiest things that we just have learned how to do because we have
Mm-hmm.
to live in this world as well. And I didn't want this collection to be like, oh my gosh, that's so cute and inspiring. You know what I mean? I wanted it to be sexy and sassy and grown and very creative. And so we wanted to take that word back. Like, no, actually, disabled people are not your inspiration. um, we're so much more than that.
Yeah.
And, it's okay to compliment somebody if it's, if I'm climbing the highest mountain or if I'm winning an Oscar or something, but like just for everyday things, like it's like, maybe let's find another way to just let somebody know that, oh wow, like I really think that like I really like what you're doing, or I really think you're, doing great things. But it doesn't always have to be like this inspiring thing just because we're living in the world.
Mm, so amazing.
Wow. It really is. Where do you go from here? What's next? And when it comes to it, and how far? When we think about where you guys are at now with this line, what's next?
Yeah, so Not Your Inspiration is so much more than just clothes. I think we always have went into this project wanting to make fashion more accessible for everyone. We are specifically wanting it to make it more accessible, obviously for blind and low vision people, but it's always been this inclusive brand where we want to highlight our differences and diversities. Because fashion is not historically has not been a place that's super inclusive. And
Yes.
so we are creating a project called the Fab Access Project, which just stands for Fashion and Beauty. And these are presentation trainings for people with disabilities, for basic things like learning how to put on makeup or learning how to pick out your clothing, how to dress for interviews, how to dress for different occasions, um, how to style your hair. Because I think that when we think of independent living programs, they kind of
Yes.
touch on those things, but not really. The focus is
Yeah.
more on like cooking and orientation and mobility, but we don't really get into presentation, which is a big part of our world since we
Yes.
live in such a visual world. And, even though we
Hmm.
can't see ourselves, doesn't mean other
Yeah, and I
people
think
can't.
sometimes we get into almost feeling pushing on that is gets people vainer. It's not as important, but we all know how wonderful we feel. And I, as a big guy, I
Yeah.
love when someone says, "Gee, you look great in that shirt, that jacket." Natalie, really appreciate you giving us time today, and thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Good luck with things, and thank you very much for what you do. Natalie Trevonne, CEO and designer of Not Your Inspiration, the change maker, of course, out there in the fashion industry with a lot of hustle. Nisreen, Brock, appreciate you guys being with us on the show today. Take care, enjoy the weekend. Fern Lullum is here on Friday. and how you deal with unmet expectations. Marco Pasqua is using AI for productivity, and that includes writing his upcoming book. And Michael Babcock is back on our program, and he'll talk to us about how come he's back on the Mac but still using Windows. Please call us at 1-866-509-4545. We'd always love to hear you and talk to you in any capacity, folks. We'll see you Monday here on Kelly and Company. Enjoy your weekend. Get out of here, will ya?
Thanks for tuning in to Kelly and Company. Follow us on all social media, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more.